from your nearest neighbors to the west. I have a little story for you that I wrote, I think it was last Christmas. And it's called Nan Saves the World. Now, Nan is my 100-year-old grandmother-in-law. She was 100 in June. And she is fairly busy keeping the world right side up. And most of you are familiar with some of the leaders we have in the world right now. Last Christmas, she had to go out and set them to rights just a bit. So here we go. I'll give it a try. It was Christmas at the White House, not so very long ago. Don was feeling grumpy with the Congress crowd, you know. He had money for the border. He was going to build the wall, but he only had enough, he supposed, to build it 2 feet tall. Vladimir was at the Kremlin. He was feeling pretty cocky after scoring 15 goals down at his weekly game of hockey, but the oligarchs were acting up, complaining about their millions. Hard times, I guess, when you're used to having billions. Meanwhile, in Beijing, Xi Jinping was in a state. Kim was fooling with his nukes again and keeping Xi up late. Sometimes it's just not easy, handling international strife and trying to get yourself set up as president for life. And so they all got on the hotline, just like they sometimes do, for a game of online battleships, and perhaps a yarn or two. Donald put the kettle on. Vladimir got set. Said Xi, "I'll flatten both of ye." Vladimir said, "Yet." In jig time, Donald's carrier was gone down to the bottom. He said, "What odds about it, boys? If I wants more, I got him." Xi got Putin's sub, but Putin said he didn't care. But when Donald got his cruiser, well, he said it wasn't fair. Because his cruiser, well, she was stealth, you see. No one couldn't see her. Said Xi, "They're all like that, me buddy, so that's the whole idea." Well, they got into the biggest row and called each other fools, looked up the rules on Google, but Don said 'twas all fake rules. They even called up Trudeau, figured he'd be neutral. He said, "I played with Sophie once, don't say that wasn't brutal." But there's lots of ways to play it, and I thank you for the call. You fellows got 3 different ways, and I respect them all. Then Putin started teasing him. "Can't build your pipeline, can you?" Putin was still cross about the loss in '72. Then Justin said he had to go, but that he wasn't doubting, that they could work it out. And Don said, "Boys, what odds about it?" So they went right back at it. They were getting proper sooky. There's a siren outside. Called his hackers up to give the boys a Christmas cookie. Vladimir called down into the basement of the Kremlin, fooled up Donald's next election with a Democratic gremlin. Well, Donald went right off the head. He had the shortest fuse. He was rotted with them both and said, "No Christmas cards for yous." Next thing, all 3 had their fingers on the button, with all 3 making speeches and then all 3 rebutting. Meanwhile, out in Boiler Cove, 'twas TV bingo night. Nan was doing good. She had the jackpot well in sight. Then with 1 number left to go, the game was interrupted. The news announcer looked some scared, and Nan was right disgusted. She watched the TV news about the tensions ramping up, put down her bingo card and went to wash her old teacup. She was cross about the jackpot loss and said, "My blessed gracious, I suppose I got to go and straighten out those foolish faces." Now, Nan, you see, she had a scattered spy around the planet, and they kept an eye out on the Stundars crowd that mostly ran it. They used a code on open line to file their reports. Paddy Daly thought it was all to do with turds in Isle of Morts. Then she turned her TV off and put on her plastic bonnet. She had curlers in her hair and didn't want the rain upon it. She grabbed her secret handbag and her magic bingo dabber, went to deal with the nitwits and their foolish nitwit blabber. And so my 100-year-old Nan was on the job once more, as she strapped into the Nan plane and took off with a roar. She set her course for Moscow and engaged the hyper rocket. This was a job for Super Nan, and Super Nan was on it. About an hour later, she was pitched down in Red Square. The guards were all into a state, and how did she get there? "Don't mind that," she said, and dabbed them with her dabber, and made them all polite and nice, and neither one would grab her. Next, she tracked down Vladimir and dabbed him on the head. He gave up on the top talk, offered tea and cakes instead. Turned out he only acted mean because when he was a boy, the only gift he ever got was some old kinder toy. He said that he'd be good now if she'd only tuck him in, and as he drifted off to sleep, he had a happy grin. And as she gently closed the door and softly said, "Good nighty," she left the Christmas cake behind for next time he got spidey. Arriving to Beijing, she went in to see old Xi. He was bawling out of his eyes with Christmas Carol on TV. "Oh my, I hate old Scrooge," he said, "and I could flatten him. I don't see why he acts so mean to poor old Tiny Tim." There, you dear," said Nan. "It's only just a story. I got some raisin bread for you if you'll just say you're sorry." Oh boy, he said, "my favorite in the world. Can you put molasses on the top and make a little swirl?" And so old Xi was straightened out and feeling proper grand. "I love you, Super Nan," he said, and waved his little hand. She smiled and waved right back at him as she flew overhead, turned on her outside speaker and said, "Now go to bed." She set her course for Washington and put the kettle on, read down Homer for a while till she found Corky in a pond. She had a bit of time to spare and called her sister Kate, said that she was fine but made me hairs in some state. She landed at the White House and then went in to look for Don. He was playing hopscotch with Obama out on the White House lawn. Don won every time because he'd move Obama on his rock when Obama went to check out if his key still fit the lock. "Now, you rascal," Nanny said, "I wants a little talk. You got the world all bottom up and cost me my jackpot." Well, Donald, he got in a snit and he started at the blabber, but Nanny messed his hair all up and dabbed him with her dabber. Then Donald, he got quiet and he cried a little bit, said that he'd be good now if she'd teach him how to knit. Obama shook his head and thought that he might run again for president if Super Nan would manage his campaign. "Some chance," she said, "'tis way too many trips. And who would plant me garden now and check me rabbit slips? Now, Donald, you be good, and you call up Vlad and Z. Invite them in for cookies and perhaps a cup of tea." Not long after that, Vlad and Z, they came to call. Donald had the teapot full and muffins made for all. He gave the boys their presents as he said, "One lump or two, oh Vladimir, I am so pleased. That color's nice on you, and I've left out a verse." I'll just go back a sec. Well, Donald, he got civil then, and he started at the knitting. He made a scarf for Vladimir, and he had a half a mitten, finished for a pair that he was going to knit for Z. Oh my, he thought, I hope the boys got something nice for me. Not long after that, Vlad and Z, they came to call. Donald had the teapot full and muffins made for all. He gave the boys their presents as he said, "One lump or two, oh Vladimir, I am so pleased. That color's nice on you." Well, Vladimir was beaming and said, "Don, you are my brother." His present was those Russian dolls, fit one inside the other. She said he loved his mittens and he held them up to see, gave the boys a lovely poem printed in calligraphy. And so 'twas peace on earth at Christmas, and the boys, they had a hug. Her spies told Super Nan, but she just gave a little shrug. She said, "Perhaps they won't blow up a while. Perhaps they might behave themselves a while. Perhaps they won't blow up the world and bingo won't be spoiled." And so here's to Super Nan. She's my very favorite senior. I wish that she was president, prime minister, and premier. And if Donald, Vlad, and Z cause trouble sometime soon, I hope she leaves her dabber home and takes some spoon.